When my uncle sent me that video, my whole world turned upside down. There they were, my parents and my brother John, sitting around our old kitchen table in Dallas, talking about me like I was nothing but a burden. The bright Texas sun shone through the windows, making the room feel warm, but their words were cold. "Patricia only helps because she owes us," my mother said, her voice full of bitterness. "After everything we've done for her, paying the mortgage is the least she can do." John smirked. "Yeah, and she acts like she's doing us a huge favor." What a joke. The worst part? My father, the man who once taught me to ride a bike and helped me with my math homework, just nodded along, agreeing with them. He didn't say a word to defend me. The video was shaky, clearly recorded without them knowing. But their words were clear as day. I watched it 4 times, each time feeling a mix of numbness and realization. For the past 5 years, I had been making most of the payments on their mortgage through my company, Divine Investments. They thought they were paying a bank, never bothering to check the details of the agreement my financial advisor had arranged. Each month, they paid a small amount while I covered the rest, over $300,000 in total, while they complained that I wasn't helping enough. Right after I saw the video, my uncle Anthony sent a message. "You needed to see this, Patricia." I couldn't stay quiet anymore. They've been talking like this for months. I sat in my home office, staring at the spreadsheets of every payment I had made. The numbers didn't lie. My hands should have been shaking with anger, but they weren't. Instead, I felt calm as I pulled up the mortgage agreement. A small smile crossed my lips as I remembered the purchase option clause, a detail my financial advisor, Jessica, had insisted on including. "Just in case," she had said. At the time, I thought it was just a precaution, but now, looking back, I wondered if she had somehow seen this coming. The next mortgage payment was due in 3 weeks. For the first time, I knew exactly what I had to do. No hesitation. No second-guessing. I picked up my phone and sent a short message to my uncle. "Thank you for showing me the truth. Don't worry, I won't let them know you sent this. But things are about to change." For years, I had been my family's safety net, though they would never admit it. When the housing market crashed in Dallas 5 years ago, my parents were on the verge of losing their home. They were drowning in debt, desperate for a way out. I was 28 years old, already thriving in my career as a software development manager. It was ironic, really. My parents had never supported my career choice. "Software isn't a career for a woman," my mother would say, shaking her head in disapproval. "Your brother John is the one with real business sense." Yet, the same John, my parents' golden child, had nearly bankrupted the family's real estate business within 3 years of taking over. When they needed help with the mortgage, I went to Jessica, my financial advisor. She had a smart, clean solution. Start an LLC. Buy the house through it. Let them believe they're still paying a bank. That way, you protect yourself legally while helping them. At the time, it seemed perfect. I could keep their home intact without dealing with their pride. So, Divine Investments LLC became their mortgage holder. Every month, my parents made their small payments, thinking they were dealing with a faceless lender, while I covered the bulk of the cost. They stayed in their home. They kept their dignity. I kept my family safe. The only person who knew the truth was Uncle Anthony. He had overheard a conversation between Jessica and me at a family gathering. "You're too good to them, Patricia," he had told me. "They don't deserve your kindness." I had defended them. "They're my family," I had said. "They may not understand my choices, but they've always given me a home." But now, as I watched the video for the 5th time, I saw the truth I had refused to accept. Their words echoed in my mind. "She owes us." What a joke. The least she can do. Each phrase was like a knife, twisting deeper. They didn't see me as family. They saw me as an obligation, someone to use and discard when convenient. But that was about to change. I opened my laptop and logged into Divine Investments LLC's account. The next mortgage payment was due on the 16th, just 3 weeks away. For the past 5 years, my parents had never missed a payment. Every month, like clockwork, they transferred their small portion, believing they were paying a bank. Meanwhile, I quietly covered the rest. But now that I knew how they really felt about me, I had no intention of paying the difference this time. Let them face the consequences of their ingratitude. Let them deal with the real bank, for once. They had no idea that their so-called worthless burden of a daughter was actually their landlord. The thought brought a smirk to my face. Sometimes karma needs a little push. The truth keeps coming. I thought the video was bad enough. But then Uncle Anthony sent me more proof the next day, screenshots from a family group chat. A chat I had been deliberately excluded from. It had been created 7 months ago and was appropriately named Family Finances. Each message was like a fresh stab to the heart. John, Patricia thinks she's so special with her fancy tech job. She barely helps with the mortgage while I'm here every day running Dad's business. I clench my fists. Barely helps? Then, my mother's response made my blood turn to ice. Mom, we should ask her for more money. She's single with no kids. What else does she spend it on? After all we sacrificed to raise her, she can't even properly support her family. I sat there, staring at the screen, my breath coming in short, sharp bursts. My hands shook as I pulled up my financial records. I started calculating. Over the last 5 years, I had contributed $370,843 toward their mortgage through Divine Investments LLC. And them? $90,500. That was all they had actually paid. I had been covering an extra $10,500 every single month. And they had the nerve to call me selfish? To say I wasn't helping enough? My phone buzzed, snapping me out of my thoughts. A message from my mother. Mom, sweetie, could you come to dinner this Friday? We need to discuss something important. I didn't need to ask what this important discussion was about. They were going to ask for more money. They would sit across from me, pretending to care, guilt-tripping me into giving more, probably with fake concern and manipulative sighs sprinkled in for effect. The thought of sitting at that dinner table, pretending I didn't know the truth, made my stomach turn. A plan takes shape. I called Jessica, my financial advisor. I need to know my options with the purchase agreement, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. Jessica was quiet for a moment. Then she sighed. I had a feeling you might ask about this. Remember that clause we included? She continued. If they miss a payment, Divine Investments can immediately exercise the purchase option. The house would legally belong to you, and they would become month-to-month tenants. I felt a shift inside me. And if they're late with rent? I asked, already knowing the answer. Then standard Texas eviction laws apply, Jessica confirmed. You'd be within your rights to give them notice. There was another pause. Patricia, are you sure you want to go this route? I exhaled slowly, staring at my laptop screen, where the mortgage payment deadline blinked back at me. For 5 years, I had given them everything, without recognition, without gratitude, without so much as a thank you. They thought I was obligated to support them. They thought I was weak. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. I thought about all the years they had looked down on me, all the times they treated me like an ATM, always ready to hand over money while they mocked me behind my back. I thought about how John ran our father's business into the ground, yet they still praised his so-called business skills. I thought about every snide remark about my career, my life choices, and my supposed duty to support them. I took a deep breath and replied, my voice steady. Yes, I'm sure. But I wouldn't tell them anything yet. Let them believe everything was normal. I picked up my phone and texted my mother back. Of course, I'll come to dinner. Looking forward to it. The heart emoji felt ironic, but necessary. After all, they had taught me well. Sometimes, the best revenge is keeping a perfect poker face. The next mortgage payment was due in 15 days. And for the first time since this arrangement began, I wouldn't be bailing them out. Friday dinner, a test of patience. I arrived at their Dallas home right at 7 p.m., just as the sun was setting. The sky was painted in deep shades of orange and purple, the desert glowing in the fading light. The house, my house, technically, looked just like it had for the past 21 years. The warm smell of my mother's lasagna filled the air, a clear attempt to remind me of happier times. Patricia, sweetheart. My mother rushed over to hug me, her designer bracelet catching the light. It was new, probably bought with money, they should have used for the mortgage, which was due in 10 days. At the dining table, John sat back in his chair, looking smug as ever in his crisp button-down shirt.
Hey, sis.
Glad you could make time for your family. I smiled, remembering his messages mocking me for barely helping. If only he knew that his entire lifestyle depended on my generosity. I always have time for family, I said, the irony heavy in my voice. My father stepped out of his study, reading glasses perched on his nose, flipping through some papers. I caught a quick glance. Bank statements. I nearly laughed. They were getting ready to ask for more money. Dinner hadn't even started, and I already knew exactly how this conversation would go. The pitch begins. Before I could take a bite, my mother set down the lasagna dish and gave me a practiced smile. Before we eat, she said sweetly, we wanted to talk to you about something important. She glanced at my father. He nodded, encouraging her to continue. I picked up my fork and served myself a portion, acting completely unbothered. Of course, I said casually. What's on your mind? John cleared his throat, shifting in his seat. Well, as you know, Dad's business has been struggling. The real estate market isn't what it used to be. I took a slow bite, chewing thoughtfully. The business had been struggling ever since John took over. Meanwhile, the Dallas market was actually doing better than ever. But I didn't say a word. We've been thinking, my mother continued, reaching across the table to gently hold my hand, about how blessed we are to have such a successful daughter. Here it comes. Your father and I sacrificed so much to give you a good education. I swallowed my food and set down my fork. I already knew exactly where this conversation was heading. And this time, I wasn't playing their game. I watched my mother carefully, seeing her actions in a new light. The gentle touch on my hand, the reminder of their sacrifices. It was all part of the act. Carefully planned. The mortgage payment has become quite a burden, my father said, his voice carrying that familiar tone of authority. The same tone he used when he wanted to make me feel small. And, with you doing so well in your computer work, software development, I corrected without thinking. Not that they had ever bothered to learn the difference. Right, he said, waving his hand dismissively. Well, we were thinking maybe you could help more with the monthly payments. After all, this is your family home too. If only they knew how much of it was already mine. We're only asking for an extra $4,000 a month, my mother added quickly. It's really not much, considering your salary. I took another slow bite of lasagna, using the moment to keep my expression neutral. They wanted $4,000 more, on top of what I was already secretly paying. They had no idea I was covering $10,500 a month. The audacity was almost impressive. I'll think about it, I said finally, keeping my tone even. Times are a bit uncertain right now. John scoffed. Uncertain?
Please. We all know you're doing fine.
Unlike some of us who are actually working hard to keep this family's legacy alive. I smiled. Not because of his words, but because I was thinking about the bank notification they'd be getting when their mortgage payment bounced next week. You're right, John, I said smoothly. Sometimes, we all get exactly what we deserve. The truth behind closed doors. After dinner, I excused myself to use the bathroom, but instead, I took a slow detour past my father's study. The door was slightly open. Inside, I could hear hushed voices. I paused, my heart pounding, as their words drifted out. She's not going to help, John said, his voice sharp with frustration. Did you see how she just sat there, acting all superior with her tech money while our business is struggling? Patience, my father replied. We have another option. My stomach tightened. Remember those investment documents I found in her cloud storage? My father continued. When she used our Wi-Fi last month? My blood ran cold. They had snooped through my files. During my last visit, I had carelessly connected to their Wi-Fi. My cloud storage must have synced automatically. She's been hiding money from us, my father said. In some company called Divine Investments. My breath caught in my throat. They knew. I looked it up, he continued. It's a real LLC, and it's doing very well. She's been stashing money there instead of helping her family. I raised a snake. My mother's voice cut in, full of resentment. We'll give her one more chance to help voluntarily, she added. If not, I'll remind her about that time in college when she took money from your business account for tuition. I nearly laughed out loud. The money they were talking about? I had borrowed it with my father's permission because their check for my tuition had bounced, and I had paid it back within a month. With interest. They thought they had leverage over me. They had no idea what was coming. I had emails proving everything. Their pathetic attempt at blackmail was as desperate as it was ridiculous. And if that doesn't work, John added, we can always reach out to her company's HR department. Ask some questions about her mental stability, maybe suggest she's been using company resources for personal projects. That would get their attention. A cold chill ran through me. The way they casually talked about destroying my career made my stomach turn. These people weren't family. They were parasites, wearing family masks. I silently slipped back to the bathroom, flushed the toilet to make it seem like I'd actually used it, then walked back to the dining room as if nothing had happened. They followed moments later, all wearing their practiced, fake smiles. The perfect timing. Patricia, dear, my mother said sweetly. Have you thought about helping more with the mortgage? I met her gaze without blinking. Actually, I have, I said calmly. You're right. Family should help family. I'll have an answer for you in about 9 days. The timing wasn't random. Their mortgage payment was due in 9 days. And I knew exactly what would happen when they missed it. Divine Investments would finally reveal who really owned their house. John frowned. Why such a specific timeline? I stood up, grabbing my purse. Just need to check some things with my financial advisor, I said smoothly. You understand, right? Being careful with money is just good business sense. I smiled at John as I threw their favorite phrase back at him. My mother walked me to the door, pulling me into one of her calculated hugs. We knew you'd understand, sweetheart. Family always comes first. I smiled. Yes, I said, thinking about the eviction notice I had already drafted. Family always gets exactly what they deserve. Time for the final act. As I drove home, I called Uncle Anthony. You were right about them, I said as soon as he answered. But don't worry. I'm done playing the silent partner in their little drama. It's time for the final act. The next week felt painfully slow. My family kept up the pressure, sending daily texts about their urgent financial situation. Each message only made me more certain of my decision. I forwarded everything to Jessica, my financial advisor, who was helping me prepare for the final confrontation. The paperwork is ready, Jessica confirmed during our meeting, for days before their payment was due. Once they miss the payment, Divine Investments can immediately take ownership of the house. And just in case, I've prepared the eviction notices. I nodded, reviewing the documents. And you're sure everything is legally solid? They can't fight this. Jessica smiled. They signed the agreement 5 years ago, Patricia. Your father barely read it. He was too desperate for the bailout. Everything is perfectly legal. The last pathetic attempt. That evening, John tried one last manipulation tactic. I saw his name pop up on my phone. John. Hey, sis. Just heard from a friend in tech recruitment. Seems like some companies are doing layoffs. Must be scary for you. I rolled my eyes before I even finished reading. John, good thing you have family to fall back on. Speaking of which, about that help we discussed, I almost laughed out loud. The manipulation was so obvious, it was almost comical. They really thought I was still playing their game. They had no idea. By the time they realized what was happening, it would be far too late. The next day, I met Uncle Anthony for coffee and showed him John's message. He sighed, shaking his head. They never change. Your aunt and I watched them do this to everyone in the family, he continued. That's why we distanced ourselves years ago. I took a sip of my coffee. Did you know they went through my files when I visited? Not surprised, he said. They did the same thing to your cousin last year when she stayed with them. They're always looking for something they can use as leverage. He set his cup down and looked at me seriously. Are you ready for the fallout? They won't take this well. I thought about it. The threats to contact my company's HR. The blackmail attempts. The years of using me while mocking me behind my back. I met his gaze. I'm ready. They made their choice. Now, they'll deal with the consequences. The final countdown. 3 days before the payment was due, my mother called. Patricia, we need your answer about the mortgage help, she said. Times are tough, and family needs to stick together. I kept my voice calm. Don't worry, Mom. Everything will be clear very soon. That night, I got an email from their bank. They had tried to transfer money to Divine Investments, but the payment had bounced. Their account was already overdrawn. I forwarded the email to Jessica, my financial advisor. Her reply came quickly. Here we go. Want me to start the proceedings tomorrow? I thought about that lasagna dinner. Their smug faces. Their casual discussion of ruining my career. I thought about the years of manipulation, the constant demands, the never-ending ingratitude. I typed back.
No.
Let them wait until the payment officially fails. Let them spend the next 3 days thinking everything is fine. They taught me well. Timing is everything. Then, I opened my laptop and started writing an email to my company's HR department. I documented everything, the threats, the blackmail attempts, the screenshots Uncle Anthony had gathered. Better to be one step ahead of their inevitable attack. The end was in sight. And I wasn't leaving anything to chance. The moment of truth. The payment deadline came and went. At exactly 10 a.m., Divine Investments' automated system sent out its default notice. I sat back, watching my phone, counting down the seconds until the inevitable call. It took exactly 18 minutes.
My phone rang.
My mother's name flashed on the screen. I answered. Her voice was frantic. Patricia, something's wrong with our mortgage payment. The bank says we defaulted, but that's impossible. We need your help immediately. I took a slow breath, keeping my tone calm. Actually, Mom, Divine Investments isn't a bank. It's an LLC. What does that have to do with anything? She snapped. It's my LLC, I clarified. To be specific, I own it. Silence.
Complete.
Utter. Silence. Then, finally, in a barely audible whisper, what? I smiled. Check your email. A rustling sound, then a beep as she opened her inbox. You'll find a notice explaining that, due to your default, Divine Investments is exercising its purchase option. The house is now legally mine. Your status has been changed to month-to-month tenants. The sound of pure shock filled the silence. Then she stammered. This is a joke. I let my voice drop to icy calm. No joke. I've been paying most of your mortgage for 5 years, I said, my voice calm. All while you mocked me behind my back. Called me a burden. Planned to blackmail me. Threatened my career. There was a stunned silence on the other end of the call. How did you? My mother started. Uncle Anthony showed me the video. I cut in. He showed me everything. I let that sink in for a moment before continuing. Now, about your tenancy. Your first rent payment is due in 31 days. I suggest you start looking for a new place to live. Suddenly, my father's voice broke in. They had put me on speakerphone. You ungrateful. Careful, I interrupted smoothly. Is that any way to talk to your landlord? Silence. The eviction notice is ready, I added. Don't make me serve it sooner than planned. Then I ended the call and blocked their numbers. The fallout. Within minutes, my inbox filled with messages. Distant relatives. Family friends. Even people I hadn't spoken to in years. You're being cruel. Family should forgive family. I didn't even bother opening them.
Delete. Delete. Delete.
Some debts can't be repaid with forgiveness. 4 months later, I stood in the empty house, my footsteps echoing through the vacant rooms. My family had finally moved out last week, forced to downsize to a small apartment across town. They had tried everything.
Threats.
Guilt trips. Even legal challenges. But in the end, the documents were ironclad. They had no choice but to accept reality. John's attempt to ruin my career had backfired spectacularly. Thanks to my preemptive documentation and Uncle Anthony's evidence, his false accusations were dismissed immediately. Instead, his actions were reported to the real estate board, triggering an ethics investigation. His career was over. My mother's final attempt at manipulation came in the form of a tear-filled voicemail. "How could you do this to your own family?" I didn't even need to think about my answer. They had shown me exactly what family meant to them. And this time, I believed them. The ending they never saw coming. I walked into the kitchen, the place where it had all started, where they had sat around this very table, laughing about how worthless I was, while I had been paying their bills. The irony wasn't lost on me. Uncle Anthony and his wife were coming over later to help me prepare the house for sale. The proceeds would go towards starting a foundation for victims of financial abuse. At least something good could come out of all of this. My phone buzzed. A text from Jessica. "Just heard from their lawyer. They finally signed the last papers. It's really over." I smiled, looking around the empty house one last time. They had always told me family comes first, but they never specified which family. So I chose myself. And for the first time in years, that felt exactly right.